Hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is David from Daveden Web Dev, and on this channel I like to talk about all things WordPress, especially about accessibility and dynamic data. So if you can see me, you can hear me, let me know in the comments so I know that everything is working. I believe it's working, but yeah, just let me know in the comments. And yeah, we'll go right into it, just talking about Elementor and what we can expect in Elementor v4, because they just released a new update version 3.35, and in that update they now said that the editor v4 is now production ready. So that's the language that they used. So that's what we just looking at in today's video. Let's see what's going on with my system. Well, let me try and I don't know why my system is keyboard just stopped working. Okay, it's working now. So yeah, Elementor said it is now production ready. And the other thing we talk about is the pricing as well. And I know a lot of people have been talking about the Elementor pricing, and they're saying that they don't understand the new subscription model where they say that Elementor Pro, there is Elementor 1, and there's a lot of confusion. But thankfully, I think Jeffrey and a lot of all the other content creators have tried to explain it a bit better so that people get a bit more understanding of the whole thing. Oh, hey, Jonathan, thank you for joining in. It's been a while. How have you been? Hope you've been all right. Hope how have you been enjoying your Edge? Because I believe Edge is now in is now stable, and that's what you're into. But yeah, so with the Elementor beta, like version 4, I think what's his name? Jeffrey mentioned a list, right? He did a list in his video talking about how if Elementor have solved a few problems, then he can now like get that as that's like being version production ready. But at right now, when he did the test, you saw that there are still a lot of limitations with Editor V4. We'll try and test it out some of those things and see what we ourselves find out. But yeah, he did a test and he said, nah, that is still there's still lots of work to be done. So let me see. Let me try and get the list out. I think I wrote it somewhere. So let me switch my screen and we can see the list. So he said something about the grids that does the V4 now support grids? Are there new elements apart from the 7 or 8 that we have currently? I must admit I didn't fully watch the video. I just watched a bit. But then the other ones like the menu element, do we have it in version 4 now, or are we still sticking to version 3 elements? The forms, the loop grid, clamps, missing variables, default spacing, and so on. So many other things that he was mentioning. And I think one thing that we must realize first is that, so I think the philosophy of Elementor right now is that you have two like combined elements. It's kind of like how with bricks. I don't know how many people use bricks. Bricks, first they started with some of those their regular elements. Then they came up with what they call nestable elements. So you have your regular accordion, then you have nestable accordion. Although Elementor has done it like twice now. So they first started with sections and columns, then they migrated to containers, and then they introduced nested elements. But now they're now going to the next phase, which they call atomic elements. So I think the reason why they still say it is production ready is because you can use the existing what they call widgets or elements and combine that with the atomic elements. So for things that are basic, like where you want to create your own components and things like that, you use the atomic elements. For other things, you could still continue using the editor v3, although that now brings in the limitation that then it is not really what they call it scalable and maintainable, because you use global classes some one place and then you don't use global classes the other place, so it's a bit off. Yeah. And okay, so Jonathan is asking the step-by-step video from Kevin. Yeah, he's doing a good job there. And then he says that, has Elementor got raw code editor yet? Uh, I don't think any builder, apart from, I think the only builder that has like raw code in terms of like HTML, both the HTML and the CSS, where you write everything in code, is um Aviator. I think it's Aviator by Dave Bloom, and then there is Edge, and then you can go ahead and basically use VS Code and just code from scratch, and then hook it up to a theme or block theme. So you basically write in VS Code and then just use some kind of Git workflow to push it to your theme. So like creating your block theme. Other than that, I think none of them really go into like using raw code, which there's an argument for both sides, because some people will say if there is raw code, then what's the point of using a page builder? Because that's the argument that lots of people have always been having, that if I'm going to use raw code to write everything, what's the purpose of calling it a page builder? But on the other hand, the way Edge has done it, yeah, it's nice that you can both see the structure panel on the wherever you want and also see the code. So that is a nice feature. So yeah, I give them props for that. So yeah, we're talking about Elementor. So let me see. The first thing that we'll talk about is the main question that people have been saying is that Elementor have changed their messaging. I know from years past, Elementor have always been saying that they are like builder for all. They are like basically for DIYers. So like if you don't know how to code, you don't need to know how to code to build websites. So there's this narrative that they've built up that Elementor is supposed to be a tool that helps you build websites visually without knowing any kind of thing about coding, which they still try to put on today. But now I think they've moved their messaging a little bit, just slightly. So if I switch over my screen, you see that they said now it's now called, the way they now put it is the most powerful website builder. As a question. So the most powerful website builder, and then they say the answer is you. So I think some of this messaging is born from the whole back and forth that they've been having with a lot of content creators that say that the tool, like you need a professional tool to build websites. So they are now trying to use this kind of new messaging that says it is you that is the professional. You are the one who are the powerful person. So this tool is just one of the tools you can use to build your powerful website. So it is not the, what's it called? So they have changed their branding at that because they're trying to now put that narrative that it is, they're putting the new narrative that it is you, not the tool. So that like that narrative that the tool doesn't matter, it is you that matter. So you're the one who builds professional websites. They will only give you as much as they can, but it is still you that builds professional websites. So your vision deserves tools with precision, freedom, and power to deliver. So they've now added some of their interactions, their scroll animations. So most of the things are scrolling. And one thing I now noticed with Elementor is that now they've gotten rid of their own Ali plugin, because I think probably people were just tired of that Ali plugin. So they got rid of it on their own website, or at least from what I can see, I don't see any Ali, or is it hidden behind that call? I don't think so. Oh, it is a pause button, but then the pause button is hidden behind it. Interesting. Now I see. So looks like Elementor has a pause button on this website. I didn't even notice, but it's hidden behind the messaging. Yeah, exactly. So there's a pause button there. Oh, that's already a bad sign. Let me see if I zoom out, if that changes. Oh, okay, so no, it doesn't really change that much. So that's already, they need to fix that on their website, or I think, or unless maybe it's just my page, my browser, because I have my screen a bit bigger than normal. At least this one is regular, but my other screen is bigger than normal. But yeah, they have something here, two icons on the top, on the bottom right of their screen, which is something I always. Oh, sorry, I've been blocking with my face. So let me remove my face. So at the bottom right of the screen, you see there is a message icon, but underneath the message icon is the pause button to pause the video. So on page load, you can't actually pause the video because it's hidden behind the. Yeah, now it's paused. Oh no, it's not paused. Let me see. Just need to scroll a little bit. No, how do I get it? I got it the first time. Interesting. Okay, at least I can now pause it here. Yeah, so they added a pause button for accessibility reasons because people want to have a way to pause videos. Any video that is auto playing, you should have a way to pause it. But then this whole idea, I don't know. Okay, then they have this animation, and okay, so they have the scroll animation. Can you pause? You can also pause that as well. Not really pausing anything. Play. Pause. Oh, okay, you're pausing the video behind the animation, but there's still the scroll animation. Okay, at least it's a good thing that they've added a pause button to every auto playing video. That's nice. But okay. Yeah, I think in terms of like design, yeah, the website come up with nice designs to complement their brand. Personally, I don't really like people like what's it called? Hijacking my scroll, whereby I scroll down, I'm scrolling left, then I scroll, so I'm not even sure. My brain is not sure what my scroll bar is doing. If I scroll down, I expect to be going downward, but that's just beside the point. But yeah, they have a nice website, and the other thing is the pricing. So now that's where the confusion has come into play for lots of people. That now they've now come up with the new pricing. Oh, okay. Thank you for joining in, Jonathan. We'll speak later. So Elementor have come up with their pricing. Some people are hating on the pricing, but like Jeffrey mentioned in his video, he tried to break it down that the pricing is not really that high compared to what it was before. Although there is this argument that a lot of people have posted that compared to other page builders, let me see. Let's compare it to other page builders now. We have let's start with which ones are the closest ones? Let's see, Bricks, builder.io. Then let me open another one like buildareas.io and HWP, I think, .com. Let's even go to the other one I use. Let's say generate one. And the final one is let's see, which other builder that do I know? Green Shift. So you look at all of them, their pricing. Generate to press 1, the pricing is $149 per year. If I go, let's see, go buy now. If you go to Edge, you go to their pricing, and you see their highest plan is $299, let's say $300 per year for their highest tier. You go to Build Areas, you go to their Get Build Areas, and the price at the moment is $179 lifetime deal. Go to Bricks, Get Bricks. The price is one-time payment, $599, or let's say the most expensive one is $250 per year. But now with Elementor, it says $12, 12 pounds. Okay, yeah, it's pounds. 12 pounds a year or a month, I mean. But when you now basically look at it, okay, 16 pounds a month actually, and then multiply that by, let's say, how many years now? How many months? 12 months. Let's just say 10 months. That would be 160 pounds, which in dollars would be a bit more. So basically, it is okay. I guess it would be cheaper than 249 a year. Okay, so I guess it's a little bit cheaper than 269 a year, or unless I'm making a mistake. So let's see, 16 since my math has just left me right now. So let's do it here. Hello, Jimmy. Thank you for joining in. So 16 pounds a month converted to USD per year. Let's see. I think Google can do that for me. Okay, so basically it's roughly around the same amount. So roughly it's basically it's still more so it's basically more expensive than even bricks, which is 249 a year in USD. This is using the base rate to be basically $261 a year. So you're still basically Elementor is still the most expensive builder at the moment, based on pricing. So that's what someone was complaining about. At least this, according to them, you get this AI credits. So you get this monthly credits of the monthly one AI, 225,000 credits if you want to use their AI. But if you look at all of the other builders, they're cheaper. So that's what somebody just wrote in my comments on Facebook recently. That so what is the selling point for Elementor now? Because they are more expensive. They don't handle some things well currently, like repeater fields. They still don't handle repeater fields even till date. You need third-party plugins to use any kind of repeater, whether it's Elementor repeater, whether it's ACPT, ACF, or Metabox, or any of those ones. You still need some custom code to use repeaters in Elementor. Whereas in literally every other builder here, Edge, GreenShift, in Bricks, in build areas, all of them handle repeaters without writing any custom code. So some things are a little like downer, basically. But yeah, let's just ignore that. So the other thing now that we'll now check out is the actual page builder itself and see, like they've mentioned, they said it is production ready. So let's go ahead and try to see how production ready it is for us. So let me go to page. Let me just log in. Okay, I forgot I'm using. Just quickly approve. Oh, okay. What did I do? Oh, okay. I had logged in too late. All right. So let's just try and open a site. So now we have a website here, Elementor website. It has the latest version of Elementor, and that is. Let's go to plugins. Oh, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for asking. I am doing quite well. I've been a little busy these days. I've not been keeping up with a lot of the trends, like the different page builders. A lot of them are coming up with so many new features, like Elementor with their editor v4 that is now production ready. You have Bricks version 2.2 RC2 is already out, meaning that maybe in a week we'll get the stable version. Etch has now come up with their version 1 stable. I know you and Etch are very good friends. Then we have Buildarius as well, which is getting closer and closer to the stable release as well, with the new update that came out, which I really like, is the collection updates, which I think I would probably do a video or a live stream next week talking about that Buildarius collection element, because there was this argument in some of the groups talking about how the Buildarius collection element is not really anything special, that there's nothing it can do that other builders cannot already do easily. And well, I have my thoughts on it, but yeah, but everybody has what they like and what they prefer. Okay, yeah, let me go to my plugins and wait. Where am I? Okay. What did I just do? Okay, let's go back to dashboard. Why is the plugin area not showing? Okay, let me go back to my user and appear. No. Settings, general. Let me switch it back to the standard setting. And And let's see. Okay, so let's go back to plugins and install plugins. Hi, Tech Reviews. Thank you for joining in. Oh yeah, I'm logging into the wrong site. That's why I was wondering why it's not. Where's my site? Oh, just give me a minute. I created a free and a paid site and I forgot. Okay, yeah, this is the paid one. Okay, WP admin. Ignore the risk. Okay, now yes, we can go to plugins and see my installed plugins. So with Elementor, because the reason why I had to use my live site, because let me show you why I'm using my live. Initially, I was supposed to use local, but on WP's WordPress Studio and local, for some reason, Elementor doesn't want to work. I'm not sure why, but I have tried everything I can, and Elementor is just not working for me. So let's see, Elementor. Let's go and okay, still starting. When it's open, so I will open it up. Well, let me go ahead and now open a page in Elementor. So let's go back to my pages and go to the home page. Edit Elementor. Okay, now the other site is opened. Because I don't know, I think the latest update with Elementor, something they've changed some setting. I don't know what they changed, but basically I literally cannot like use their global classes on my sites, and I'm like, what's going on? Yeah, like you see now, this is a page on the live site, and I can do any styling I want. I've put a div block. Generally, the way I like to start with Elementor's whole page builder is that right now I put, whenever I want to have an outer wrapper, I use the div block first. Then within the div block, I add a flexbox. So now we have div and then flexbox. The reason why I like to do it this way, because I like the outer wrapper to not really be any style. It should just be a block, it just be a regular thing. That's how I build layouts. I put the outer wrapper as just the wrapper. It is the inner container that I now apply most of my styles to. I think where I got it from, I believe it was from Kevin Powell. Can't remember now. It's been a while. So if you look at any of their layouts, okay, he's using grid, I think. Yeah, he's just using grid. Okay, so yeah, I can't use this site anymore. But basically, the way, if you look at most of their layouts, is that they don't really bother putting. They use the inner. I'm rambling now, so let's just skip that and continue. So basically, how I like to build a site, it is like this: start with a div block, and that will be like maybe a section, depending on what I'm using it for. So this will be like my hero section. Within that div block, I'll add a flex box, and that will be my wrapper or my inner. And then within the wrapper, I'll now add 2 other flex boxes. So this one will now be for my content, and the other one will be for like my media, if I have any media file. So within the content is where I'll put in all of my text content. So let's say my heading, my paragraph, and maybe a button. Within the media container is where I put my image. So put an image there, and we've gotten our typical layout. So this is a typical layout. Let me just make that content to be flex direction column. Yeah, so this will be how a typical layout is. So, so let's go ahead and publish. But now, see with, I don't know, with the, okay, no, it's not here. The Elementor Studio, I tried with both Studio and with WP Local. The moment I try to add a class name to a site, see, I'll edit a home page with Elementor. We'll do the same thing on the live site. So here we have a live site. Let me give it a class name to my button. So the click here button, I'll just give it a class name of maybe BTN primary. And let's go to typography, no, to background, and change the color to maybe black. You see my class name is there. I publish, and I reload. While that's reloading, let me switch over to the other site. What's happening to my site? Just giving me an error. I don't know what. So what I'm suspecting is that maybe my my studio is not having enough, I don't know, RAM or something, or enough PHP memory, something that is not enough for Elementor, which is why the global classes are not working. Because I've tried both on a Mac, on a PC, which is why I couldn't go live yesterday, because I was trying just to get Elementor to work on my local. Everything works with the containers, but with the what's it called, the new V4 elements, I keep getting an error in my console, which doesn't allow me to work with Elementor. So I just got frustrated, and I don't know. But yeah, so this is how I would typically build a site with Elementor. Like any page that I have, it's always this kind of layout. For like the hero section, we have the hero section with a wrapper, with a container for the content, and another one for media. And we have our hero section. Sometimes some of the layout might change and things like that. Yeah, I think with InstaWP it works. So it's just local and WP Studio. I don't know why it doesn't work there. I couldn't tell you why, but I guess something Elementor is using, maybe a PHP function or something that Elementor is using, is not there. Something like that. So I don't know. But yeah, so this is typical. And then now let's start asking the questions of why, like, Elementor may or may not be production ready. So that is the question we're going to answer now. The first thing that was mentioned is the fact that the Elementor layout comes with this default padding on every container. So whether you're using a div block or you're using a flexbox container, it always comes with a default padding of 10 pixels, which means that every time I add a new container, I have to probably add a new class or something, either to get rid of the styling of the container. I have to always constantly keep adding a new class every time to every section. I can't just like go to one location and style all of my div blocks, like the default style on div block. I can't just style it from one place and just know that that is the one place that it is. Because right now, every time you add a div, any kind of div block, if you go to the front end, let's say just add an image. So let's go to an image. You see that, let's put a background on the div block so it's easy to see. So let's go to background and just give it a color. You see, there's always this 10 pixel padding on any container, which now defeats the purpose of, like, let's say a wrapper div. You don't want to be adding padding to everything. It's only on the elements that you need to add padding to that you want to add padding, not to everything. So that's just one of the things that some people have been asking, that how can we style the defaults of each element? If anybody knows that, yeah, you can let me know in the comments. But for now, that's one limitation. The other limitation that someone pointed out is the fact that, yes, we have a class manager, but the class manager is very limited in the function. All we can do is detect where the classes were used. That is one. Then we can rearrange classes, but we can't like add classes to anything. We can't do anything with the classes. We can't add, we can't edit, we can't nothing. We can't you can only delete the class or rename the class. There is no way to like maintain the class directly on the page. Whereas if you have something like, let me just use right place so that I can quickly switch between page builders. Let's see. Let me look for a bricks website. Something like bricks. If you go into bricks, edit with bricks. Let's see, what do they have there? Why are all my sites? I think anytime I go live, my sites just all turn very slow. But yeah, that's the second limitation that people are saying, that the class manager is still very limited for it to be called a production ready kind of system. I think the other thing that was mentioned by a few users is the fact that with other kind of page builders like Builderias or with bricks, you can literally just now in the new version, you can just paste in your whole CSS framework and it will just work. With Elementor, right now you can't really paste in your own CSS framework. You literally create your framework. So if you want to create your variables for heading levels, you have to like create literally text small, text medium, text large, things like that. You have to create everything yourself. Then you, for your spacing, you create it again. For your global classes or your global radius and things like that, you have to create everything from scratch for every project. There's no way to just update it once and everything just changes so that you can use it from project to project. It's not there, it's still limited. At least with something like Elementor, they immediately had a way to hook into it to use CSS frameworks. But with Elementor right now, you still don't have any way to hook into it to use any kind of, to input your own CSS framework. And the other thing I'm afraid of, which is why I've not really been using the global classes that much, is the fact that I'm not sure if later down the line Elementor will come up with a rule for the class naming. So maybe right now you are naming your classes text M, text S, text L. Maybe somewhere down the line, Elementor might now start using those classes for their own internal code base, and that will now ruin your whole design system. So that's something I'm still afraid of, which is the reason why I still use prefixes for my classes, because I'm afraid, I'm not sure how Elementor will handle that, so I don't know what it is. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Because being able to, having to constantly put literally all of your variables, because Elementor have come up with a very nice way now you can add variables, which is amazing. It wasn't there in version 3. You come here, you create your variable, but now to add variables, you literally have to now start adding them one after the other. So you can say maybe let's say primary or color primary, and then you set maybe blue something blue as my primary color. Then I think you can also switch between hex, RGB, and HSL. That is all you can do. So create. So now you have a variable. So for all of your colors, you now have to basically go into the, I think, how do you go to your variables manager? Is there any other easier way? Settings? Yeah. So here in the variables manager, you now have to start creating them one after the other. Basically, you have to create for your color primary, your color secondary, your other kinds of colors, you create them manually, and which is good actually. At least it's good. I like the fact that they have done that. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm always afraid of. Like Techie Reviews just said, trying to scope your variable names to like your class names, like using like DD or some kind of prefixing of your class names, because I'm afraid of some of these page builders. With Builderias, which I use most of the time now, I'm sure that I can overwrite any class name that the builder uses, because the entire CSS is exposed to you, the entire HTML is exposed to you, so you can edit anything you want to edit. But with something like Elementor, which is a closed system sort of, which basically trying to help you out as a user-friendly UI, you're never sure what Elementor is using. For example, let me give you a quick example of class names, how things can already start overriding. So let's say I'm back to my classes. Try and create a class name called container, and you get an error. You can't use the name container. So some of the class names you might not know which one Elementor is already using. So it can like mess up your design system down the line. So that's why I'm afraid of using any kind of non-prefix naming convention for Elementor. But yeah, speaking of variables, I love the fact that we can go to your variable manager and create all of your variables from the variable manager directly. So you can create all of your variables right here in the variable manager, and with other things like spacing. So let's say I want to say like space L. Let's create one. How do I create it? Where's the plus sign? Okay, plus. I can say size, and I can say space M. Come into my space M. Let's go to a clamp manager, something like Utopia. Okay, for space, let's just use one of their spacing variables that they've created. Okay, so like space M is clamp. So this is one thing that people have been asking, like, okay, we have something like this that generates our space and everything for us. Can't we just copy and paste it in Elementor and it just works? I wish there would be something like that in the future, but I believe we're still in beta, or in beta, so it should be added later. So with this one now, I click on FX, and then I can now drop in my variable. So now we have our clamp for space M. I can do the same thing for the next one. Maybe space L. I'll go back to Utopia, go to the one for L. Copy. And we get our next clamp. So this is how you create your space variables. Then you create your contextual variables as well. Something like maybe your wrapper padding or your section padding, your gutter, things like that. You create some contextual spacing, header spacing, and things like that. So you create all of your variables, which is good. I like that. I like the fact that you can use any unit for your sizes. What I'm not happy about is that we still, in 2026, cannot use any like value for colors. We are still stuck with using Elementor's default HSL. How do I edit it? Yeah, HSL. What's going on now? Wait, oh, no, that's a problem. Okay, we are stuck with using HSL, the RGB, and all the other ones. So if we go to create a new variable for color, can say maybe secondary. Why is it? What bug is that? Interesting. The only things that we can use is basically we can use HSL, RGB, or the what's the other one? Hex values. We can't use so many of the new features that we have. For example, with let's go to bricks. Let's just try with bricks. Where did I put the right place now? Okay, right place. Bricks. So this is bricks, a demo. I'm just trying to test out some things on bricks. Let's create a new section. And in the section, I'll add in a heading. Okay, so we have our heading. I can come over to style and come over to, let's say, I want to change the color of the text to color. Go to my color variables and let's create a new value. So a new variable. Let me create a new one. I'll say test colors. And the variable name will be like, let's say, primary. I can now say use anything here. I can use OKLCH. I can say I think I already have primary somewhere, just to be safe. Okay, I call it color primary. So I can say okay LCH from var dd color primary LCH and 0.2, something like that, and it will work. I can use anything. I can change the values to anything I want. Whereas with Elementor, if I try that same thing, let's try if the color works. I think I wrote everything correctly. Save, and that's just primary. Okay, so let's try with that variable now. The color under typography, I'll go over to my brain now is shutting down. Okay, colors, and let's see my. Did I save it? Oh no, I didn't save it. But let's just use a regular color directly here. I can just say OKLCH or HSL from black HSL slash 0.2, also from not black, let's say red. If I know how to, if I'm writing it correctly, I think that I'm writing that correctly. How do I do that? Why is it not working? Oh no, this is the variable, not the. With the new update that they've done right now, I think I've been making mistakes. They did a new update. This whole new CS system is something I'm not used to. Now I'm messing it up for everybody. Everybody's now seeing. Okay, let's go back to the variable manager, which is why I believe Kevin always says he doesn't like all of these. What's it called? These systems now that people are creating. All of these new UI based CSS. Okay, so let's create a new color palette. I'll say that is Daveden. No. Daveden, create, and now this should be called primary. Yes, so I can now put that color here, and add color. No, variable name already. Okay, sorry, primary 2. Add color. So now I have primary 2. Save. Refresh. And I can now use that my variable name here on my heading style under typography color. Switch to Daveden 2, and where is it? Yeah. And that's Daveden 2. Why it's not working? I keep forgetting how to use relative color. So let's see. Relative color from yeah. Okay, no comma. I made a mistake. I put a comma. Yes, there's no comma among it. So I go back to my. No wonder it was not showing up in the builder when I was trying to edit it. Let's go to colors and go to the variable manager. Let's edit it and remove this comma. Ah, yeah, now it's working. Yeah, I was the one who made a mistake. So you see, I can literally do anything I want. Use relative colors. I can use color mix. I can do anything with the colors I want. Because like nowadays, there's this new way that people build sites. They use one base color, like Kevin Powell has talked about. Use one base color, and then you just use this relative color. So you can use either color mix or from, you put the OKLCH or RGB or HSL in bracket, you put from, you put your variable of your base color, and then you put what do you want to change in that base color. You want to change the lightness, the saturation, anything. And so you have one base color, and you can now use that to create your framework, your framework, which means that when you go back sometime in the future and your client says, oh, we don't want our primary color to be blue, we want it to be red, you change that primary color in one place to red, and then it basically automatically changes everywhere else. But right now with the Elementor one, you are just stuck to using RGB, HSL, and the hex values, which means that although we are getting into editor v4, we are still stuck with like the 2020 system of doing things. Like since we are moving into V4, it is still an alpha or like a beta version, which means that they should be able to take advantage of the newer syntaxes, which is the main benefit of moving to a new builder. When you are moving to a new era or a new version or a new builder, you should have that benefit of being able to tap into the newer syntaxes, not still stuck with the pre-2020 syntax, because I think relative colors has been out for a while now. Let me see if I'm not wrong. Let's see. Relative color. Can I use? Let's see how long it has been there. Okay, 2024. Okay, so I can give them that for relative colors that we can use. It's 2024, but something like color mix is widely available already, so we should be able to use color mix for our colors already. But we are still stuck, not being able to do all of that. So that's what some people were like saying, that so many of these things are still limited. That's one thing I'm just surprised about. How is it possible that they can allow us to use any unit we want for size variables, but not for colors? Is it that there is a security aspect to size which just somehow magically does not exist for color, or like there's a security threat to colors which doesn't exist for sizes? I'm not sure. I don't understand. Like, why is it that the colors we are stuck to using only HSL, RGB, and the hex colors, whereas with any other thing, you can put any variable, any unit you want for border radius, for sizes, for padding, margin, anything. We can even put auto, we can put anything we want, but for colors, there is still that restriction. I don't know. I'm not sure why they did that. But yeah, those are the main things. I don't know. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts about the whole Elementor system and how it is compared to other page builders? Like, if I go to Bricks, like Haribos says, they probably forgot. I guess so. I guess they just need some kind of reminder. Exactly, like they are saying that they are a profession. We are basically calling it a professional tool. So now that we're going into the professional level, you should now be able to allow more freedom. Like, it's still like restricting my freedom is still not nice. Although, yeah, granted, you can easily say, let's go. We must admit that yes, this is not there's the option that you can go over and create your new div block. I'll give that a class name of, I think I called it section. Yeah, section. And then within the div, I'll add a flex box. I think I called that wrapper. And I get my base style already. Then I can put in the heading. So the argument that they can give you is that you can still come over to your style, to custom CSS, and basically put that same color. So color, OKLCH, maybe from pink, LCH, and the L should be, let's say, 1 or 0. Why can't I spell 0.2? 0.4? Okay, so you can use the global CSS if you want. So that's the argument that you can say. You can use the... Oh, thank you very much for pointing it out. Because let me delete it. Thank you very, very much for keeping me in the loop. Otherwise, I'd have just been speaking to myself throughout. So yeah, let's go again. Typically, like I said, the way I always build the site, so I'll come div block with the class name of section or DD section. In this example, I just use section. But I think going forward, I'll just be using my own prefix variables just to be safe. Then you can put a flex box inside, and I put that as a class name of wrapper. Then I can put in a heading. hold on a sec, something is broken. I thought I had some styles on the wrapper. Wrapper, space, let's say top, no, not that. Space L, let's just do that. Bottom, space L. Okay, let's just use that as my wrapper. So this is how you do it. You put wrapper, then I'll suggest you use like a what is it called? You first create your space L space, all of your space variables like you have from Utopia. You can just create all of your space variables. After that, I'll now suggest that you now create contextual variables like section padding, block, section padding, inline, and other things like that, so that you can now hook into those contextual variables, so that in case maybe in the future you want your contextual variables to change for all of your sections, you don't want to start changing the space L value. All you just want to change is the contextual values, contextual space value. So like your heading space L, you can change that, knowing fully well that it will not affect every other thing that uses the other kinds of what they call base values. Yeah. So that's what I will suggest you do, but I'm not doing that in this example. But like I said, you can still technically use all of those newer color variables in your project by going to your style tab and then custom CSS and use the color mix here. So like color, something like OKLCH, maybe from pink, or no, something broken there. Color, OKLCH, from pink, LCH, and we can now start changing the values. Like let's say we don't want the L to be that bright, we want it to be 0.6 and it to be a bit darker, so that whenever we change, instead of pink, you can now use a variable here like var, I think it's color primary, I call it. Yeah, so var color primary, so that whenever I now go back, so now you see I have this color mix. I can now, maybe sometime down the line, I want to change my primary color on my site. So I can just go back to my variable manager now. So where it's under variables, so I'll go to typography and then go to variables, open the variable manager, and now watch what happens when I change the variable. I change this to any other color. Work, please. Something like this. And it didn't work. Interesting. How do I refresh? And it didn't save. Just great. Didn't I? I didn't save it. Color HSL from var color primary HSL. The L should be 0.4 or 0.6. Elementor. Very good. It's just, it hates me today. I can just agree that Elementor hates me. Color primary. Publish. Well, let me see. Did my variable disappear? Let's see if I didn't save my variables. So go back to typography and go to color. I guess I didn't save variables. No, it's there. Interesting. Why is it not working? Let's clear the variable. This is one of those things that I don't really like about the whole Elementor system. That is all of these icons everywhere that only appear on hover. It's a bit hard to see. I must have done something wrong. So color pink. Okay, that works. Yeah, because of all of this caching, like tech like Lex says, I think there's so many caching issues that always happens. So let's try again. HSL. I'll start from var color primary. HSL. Okay, now it works. Oh, finally. Okay, so I can do a calc. No, not the H. Let's say on the L. I can do a calc. L plus 0.2. No. Nope. Oh boy. This is not what I've been expecting. Let me use OK LCH. Let me zoom in if maybe I'm not seeing it well. From the color primary, yeah. So this will now be L C and then the H. Okay, plus nothing's changing. Okay, let me go ahead and publish it and see it on the front end if anything changed. Inspect. Yeah, from the color primary, LCH. Yeah. Why is the hue not changing? Oh, okay, so it was. Oh yeah, the H is. I forgot. The hue is in 360 degrees, so that's why it's not working. I'm supposed to go a lot higher than that for it to work, because the H for the I think for the color variables H is like I have to go like 24 or something. Yeah, that's when it works. I forgot that hue is a higher number. It's basically from 0 to 360 degrees for hue, I think. So which is why it was not working. So let's say I change the hue now to plus 24. Publish. Okay, so now we have this color. So I can now, anytime I want, I can go back and change the variable for my base color. So I could go to typography, variables, change my variable for my base color. No, sorry. Unlock, clear, set variables, change the color to maybe hash FF0000. Save changes. Please work. Why? Okay, let's just delete it. No, I don't want to do that. Please. Okay, save changes. Okay, finally. And you see, automatically it changes everywhere. So you just basically set the color once, and that will be like for all of your different, let's say like, what's it? How we normally do it in different like color things with like core framework. You can have like your ultra lights, like your primary light 2, primary light 3, or if some people like to use it in terms of numbers, because different people have different naming conventions for their colors. So some people start with like color primary, then maybe for all of the variants, they can have like color primary 100, color primary 200, all up to 900. Others like to use some kind of more logical names like color ultra dark, ultra light, and whatever. Some other people prefer to use L and D's. So they'll say color primary dash L dash 1 to 9, or color primary dash D dash 1 to 9 for darker shade or lighter shade. So it all depends on how your own design system is. But with this whole relative colors and color mix, you can create one base color and use that across your site. And then once you change that to one base color, because for example, let's try that down. So I'll create 3 different headings. So duplicate the second heading. I'll just modify it a little bit. So under style, custom CSS, the primary sort of 24, I'll say maybe 48. Oh no, let's say 100. Something like that. And then duplicate again. And the other one I'll say maybe 160. Okay. So you have 3 different colors which all have the same lightness value and the same chroma value. The only thing that we're changing is the hue. So whenever I now go back to my variable, so typography, color, variable, and I change the base color. Oh shit, I always forget how it works with Elementor. Variables, variable manager, and I change the base color to like hash 00FF00. Enter. Save. And let's refresh. No, it's not saved again. It always happens. Close. Save. Refresh. Make sure the variable was saved. But basically, what will happen is that all of the colors are supposed to now basically change based on our calculation from the primary color. So yeah, let's see if the variable worked. Go to typography. Is there any easier way to get to this variable manager? Because I have to go to typography, variables, and then variable manager before I can get access to my variable manager. Why didn't everything change? This is my primary color. 00FF00. Or FF00. Okay, yeah, they all changed. So I missed it the first time. So yeah, and see the colors automatically all change according to that value. So now let's say you change only the hue, no, sorry, the lightness value. So let's say you have lightness, you reduce it by 20%, then by 40%, by 60%. All of them will just basically change their lightness values based on your primary color, and then you can just stick to one primary color and use that across your site. So that is something new coming up, but hopefully Elementor will finally adjust this their color variable system manager to be able to accept anything. Because right now, if you try to use any other thing apart from this hex, if you say something like red, okay, no, red works. If you say something like var color primary, save. And then let me try and use the secondary color. So under my typography, I now say text color should be. See, it doesn't, nothing happens because the Elementor will have basically sanitized that color and removed it, I think. The way they do, there are lots of sanitization. So if I go, oh, oh, wait a minute. No, secondary. Oh, wait. Oh, wow. I missed that. Ah, okay. So I changed, I take that back. Elementor are better. Elementor are good. I take that back. Because I was testing the other day and it wasn't working. Now it looks like it's working. So let's get rid of this, our custom CSS. Oh, wow. I shouldn't have said that. It seems Elementor has updated their color variable. You can now use anything you want in the color variable from what I can see. So let's go and just create a, let's delete all of these and add a new heading. Let's go ahead and add color. So in the style, let's say background color. Let's see, can we do that? Var, no. No. How did it work on, okay, let's go here. Var color, let's just write red. Oh, wow. Yes, it works. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't work. Okay, so it only worked in the variable. Thank you very much, Webonauts, for joining in today. I'm just, today has been, I'll be going off soon as well, but I'm just trying to see how it works. I think if you use the variable, sorry, stay here, the variable manager, then it works. But if you try to write your colors directly here in the editor, it doesn't work. So that's something. So if I go to variable manager and I say color tertiary and I just write something like purple, create. No, how did it work the other time? I could have sworn it worked. Okay. Purple. Yeah. So that's, so I guess it is kind of like a bug, but at least it works. So if you go and first try to type in your colors, Elementor will not allow you to add the color. But if you now go back and edit the color, then you can now put your color as anything. See, right now it's purple, and it works. But if I try to like edit it from here, and I put purple now, let's say pink, and I try to save, it will not work. But if I go to variable manager, so it's a happy bug that I just noticed. So if you go to variable manager and you edit an existing variable, like an existing color variable, then you can put in any value you want. So you can now put in var color primary. Right? Yeah. So save. And it works. So yeah, that's it's a bug, but at least maybe that's hopefully they don't they make it actually work rather than removing the possibility. But yeah, okay, that's it for the Elementor's variables. So this is some of the limitations that people have mentioned. The number one, all of their containers tend to have like that 10 pixel padding across them. Whether you're trying to put it as a wrapper div, an inner div, everything, you have to now go back and remove the 10 pixel padding. There's no way you can globally manage that variable, the 10 pixel padding on maybe the div block versus the flexbox container, something like that. Then I think the second thing is that the CSS variables, the colors, technically you're not allowed to change the colors up to anything other than HSL, HSL, RGB, or hex values. Although I've now found this buggy workaround whereby you first of all set HSL, then go to your variable manager and edit it from there, and it works to whatever you want to set it as. Then what else is the other limitation? The other limitation is that still in 2026, we still cannot use repeater fields in Elementor. There's no way to create repeater fields. You have to use a workaround. Thankfully, with Metabox, you can use Metabox has their own templating system. You can either use the Metabox views or you create your own templates that Metabox has provided using Elementor. Then with something like Jet Engine, they have their own Jet Engine query builder and listing grid builder they can use for repeater fields, or you use a dynamic field widget that will also work. But like to natively use repeater fields, it doesn't exist even right now. Whereas with all the other page builders, with with um with generate with grain shift, with Builderius, Edge, with bricks, you can use repeater fields on all of them. What else? Yeah. So some of these things that still need to be ironed out, that Elementor need to just modify a little bit, and then it will be fully production ready. The other thing, I don't know if you noticed when I was writing the CSS, in the custom CSS, Elementor doesn't allow you to add spaces. So if watch what happens, let me zoom in a little bit. Let's zoom in a bit more. You see, if I write color space, you see it will auto adjust and remove my space. So I have to write based on, but they have the autocomplete like I can see here. So you can autocomplete it with the colors brown, but you can't add any kind of space. If you try to add space, it removes that space for me. So let's say background color, it removes this. Okay, so it only removes the space the first time. Okay, background color, if I put it again, okay, yeah, the space comes back. Pink, something like that, and so on. So there's, well, it's not bad. It's not bad. If you want to put in something like hover, you can use nesting. So you can see at and hover color blue. So if you hover, why? Why? Background color blue. Oh, why is this thing just hating on me? Now what is wrong? Publish. Let's go to the front end. Inspect. Where is unhover? Okay. Oh, it converted it to carriage return /n, so that means it's buggy again. I can't use the the ampersand symbol. It doesn't work. Okay. Oh, okay. But let's see if I try to do nesting on the container, if that works. So container, global styles, and I say H2, background, color, red. So okay, nesting works as long as I don't use the @ symbol. It worked. What? So why didn't it work the other time? I was using a carriage return instead. I think their things are just so. It's just, I need to really sit down and use it more to understand why sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I must admit I'm the one who is not really like used to Elementor. I've not used Elementor in a while, so I probably am doing something wrong. So let's try again. So color. Let's delete this header. Add in a paragraph. Style. And then let's see again. Color red. Okay. And hover. Color pink. Nope. Doesn't work. So I can't use something like, yeah, I think there's a bug with the Elementor and not being able to add and hover. There's basically, I guess maybe the yeah, it just breaks the colon into /n and breaks every other thing. But yeah, okay, that's for Elementor. But anyway, moving on from that, the other thing that is nice about Elementor is that now you can create components. So you can go ahead and just say maybe a div block, a flex box. Within the flex box, let me just set the size to something that is small for now. So let's say the max width is like 36. rem. Okay. Then within the div block, you can go ahead and add in a heading, an image, and what else? Let's just say heading and an image. Then oh, it was even on the wrong. Wait, is this right? Yeah, it's right element. Okay, heading and image. Then I'll just put the style layout to be column. Okay, so we have this basic element. I can now just right click on the element on the container, and I can say save as create component. I give the name as maybe card1 create. Okay, so now we have our card1. It has been created. Got it? So we now have a card. So now we can style this card however we want for all of our cards. And when we are done, we can now go ahead to component properties, and where do I add your first property? How? Okay. Here, right? Okay. Override property. The name will be title. Create. So now that will be the new heading. Then the image, I can override that property. There's a this dot sign or whatever sign it is. Click on that, and this will be called maybe like media. Create. So now we have created our default. Save. Then we can exit it. How do we exit? Back. So now we have our container, our card. So if I come to my card now, it now gives me the properties that I've asked it to expose. So now instead of this is a title, I'll say this is another title. Let me move it to another container so this red color disappears. Okay, delete the first container. So you see, we have our element. If I add another card, if I go to plus sign, you now see components. If I click on components, click on card1, it will create another instance of that card1. I can now go ahead and add in a different text. So let's say this is not a card, and give it another image. And we have our cards, so 2 cards. The beauty of this is that now we can go into any of the card components, and you see at the top left-hand corner, you see a pencil icon. If I click on that, I can now go ahead and edit one instance of the card. So now I can now say, okay, instead of the title to be up, we want the title to be down. And maybe the image, we want to give it some style. So I'll go to my style and give it a class name of, let's say, card img or card media. No, yeah, card img. Custom CSS, say aspect ratio should be 16 by 9, and width should be 100%. Object fit should be cover. Okay, so we have that. Publish, and I'm done. So I can now go back, and all instances of the card will now be updated to that, having the text at the bottom, the image at the top, the image having an aspect ratio of 16 by 9, and so on. So basically, this is one beauty of using components. The fact that you can create your entire design layout of a card or a button or whatever you want. You now expose some properties of that component, and the user can go back sometime in the future and change the properties of the style, and it literally is like creating a new widget without actually having to code the widget from scratch. You create a new widget, or which in this case is called component. You style it however you want, and then it is going to be uniform across all the sites. If you want to delete anything from that component some months down the line, you delete it in one place, and it automatically is spread out to every other place you've used it. So in typical WordPress, it's called patterns with override. Whereas in Elementor, it's called components, and most of these page builders, they call them components. With Elementor, they call them, in WordPress, it's called patterns with overrides. But yeah, so that is it for today. I'll try and do more testing on the whole of Elementor and come up with a better video that showcases the good sides of Elementor version 3.35 that should come out on Monday. But today I was just trying to see some of the features that are there and just talk about Elementor generally. So I want to say thank you all for joining in today. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Let me know in the comments. I see in the comments that majority of people say that Editor V4 is not production ready yet, which, yeah, I agree. It still has some bugs that need to be fixed. And yeah, that's it. So from next week, you should see a video about Elementor Editor V4, that is version with the 3.35 beta or 3.35 stable, and other videos will also come out next week. So there'll be more regular videos starting from next week. This week I've been very busy doing some walking around, but from next week there should be some regular videos. Then I'll go on break again, and then in March we'll get more videos. So until then, thank you all for joining in today, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye.